The new Macy's Backstage at the Center at Preston Ridge opens Saturday. Here's the deal. Our name says Macy's, but Macy's Backstage has totally different finds at incredibly low prices. Think the latest looks, home decor, toys, and more. Plus, Macy's Star Rewards members earn on every purchase, except gift card services and fees. So join us Saturday, September 18th at 10 a.m. for the new Macy's Backstage at the Center at Preston Ridge. Off price, on trend, arriving daily. More at Macy'sBackstage.com.
You might have noticed a change in your neighborhood lately. Yep, Sprint stores are now T-Mobile stores. Now that Sprint is T-Mobile, you get more coverage, value, and benefits than ever before. We've invested billions to bring our 5G from big cities to small towns across America. And great coverage is just the start. From high-speed mobile hotspot data to weekly deals and giveaways, our customers get tons of great benefits. Head to your new T-Mobile store to learn more.
Qualifying service and capable device required. Coverage not available in some areas. Some uses may require certain plan or features. See T-Mobile.com.
You've heard the screamers, the shouters, the haters, the beraters. Now it's time to listen to real conversation. Rational conversation. Now it's time for the Rick Unger Show. And now, here's Rick Unger.
Welcome back to the Rick Unger Show. On this Wednesday edition, we talk a lot, not just on this program, but we as a society these days talk a great deal about criminal justice reform. And we talk about the jails and we talk about the police, but there is a major component of the criminal justice system that we never talk about at all. And as somebody who has personally spent my fair share of time in courtrooms as a lawyer, I know how critically important this aspect of our system is. I am talking about the court-appointed attorneys. There are millions of people in this country who simply can't afford to hire an attorney to represent them when they find themselves facing a criminal prosecution. They don't have the money. And thanks to a long ago case, we now have a thing in this country where everybody is entitled to a defense in a criminal proceeding. And if you cannot afford to hire your own counsel, well, then the court is going to appoint one for you. The question is, how well are these people defending the interest of these folks who can't afford to pay for their own attorney but have to face criminal prosecutions just the same? Well, there's no greater authority on this question than our next guest, Jonathan Rapping. Jonathan is the founder and president of Gideon's Promise, an organization dedicated to changing the culture and practice of public defense in this country. He's a recipient of a MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant, which I can tell you, if you're not familiar, don't just go to anybody. And that grant recognized him for his work as a criminal justice innovator. He is a professor. He teaches law at Atlanta's John Marshall Law School and at the Harvard Law School. And he is the author of the book, Gideon's Promise, a public defender movement to transform criminal justice. Jonathan, it's really great to have you on the program today. You have hit on such an important area of our criminal justice system that previously had not been getting any attention whatsoever. It's critical what you're doing. Let's just begin by understanding how many cities, towns, whatever, actually have departments within the judicial system that is staffed with public defenders.
Yeah, well, Rick, let me start by just saying thank you. I really appreciate you giving space to talk about public defenders. I do think they are often left out of the conversation about how we achieve justice in America. Your question is almost impossible to answer because although Gideon versus Wainwright, the case you mentioned, established the right to counsel, required that states give people who can't afford lawyers when they are charged with crimes, Gideon never mandated how states are to do that. And so there are states that have statewide systems. There are states that delegate that mandate to counties. There are states that have a mix of counties and state-funded systems. And there are public defender organizations and other counties that use private lawyers who take appointments or take contracts. So it's really a patchwork of delivery systems. Although I will tell you, I think the systems that have full-time professional public defenders tend to be the ones that are able to fulfill the promise of Gideon the best.
Yeah, and the reason I asked the question is precisely what you pointed out here. I think people need to understand that there's a few different ways this can go. If you're in a big city, most big city court systems do have a public defender's office. But in many, many, many locations, it's not like that. Yes, that you are entitled to a defendant or a defending attorney, but it's going to be up to the judge to appoint somebody who's no doubt in private practice to do that job for you. Now, I can tell you in my own experience, having one time been a judge, that what Jonathan just told you is true. Let's start with those public defense offices, because they are people who are committed, most cases, they are committed to providing a decent defense to the people they are assigned to represent. However, even in that case, John, do we not find that they become heavily overloaded with cases? I remember a situation in Los Angeles where a public defender I knew added up the case load for the year. It came to 574 cases. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And sadly, Rick, that is not an uncommon story for public defenders in America. You know, I started my career as a public defender in Washington, D.C., which is really a model office. And for 10 years I practiced. And although I handled very serious cases, murders, rapes, I never had more than 25 cases at a time. And I was still working 7 days a week. There were weeks that I would put in 70 hours. And then I moved to the South and started doing this work across the country. And I met public defenders like the one you described who had 300, 400, 500 cases a year. And they really had to figure out how to triage. Although they cared very much, they really did have to trade the interests of one client for another. That is unfortunately the justice system we have in America.
And then you have the other way, which is when the court not having access to a public defender's office in their system, the court has a list of attorneys that are willing to be contracted for, to be paid to be a defense counsel. Now, you know, this is a little sensitive, Jonathan, but I'm just going to say it. In my experience, people who were on that list were private practicing attorneys who were not making a very good living and would take any opportunity to make some money. I understand their desire to do that, but I have to say I would find more often than not that not only were they not the best criminal defense attorneys in town, but more times than not, they would not even meet their client before that first appearance in the courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, I will tell you, I am very hesitant to bash lawyers.
That's why I did it for you.
Absolutely right. I think that oftentimes these systems create really perverse incentives to take shortcuts, to process human beings, to get cases resolved as quickly as possible. There might be a system where a lawyer is told, you get $50 to handle this case, whether it takes you 15 minutes or 15 weeks. Or it might be that judges have a list of lawyers that they appoint, and the lawyers get appointments by making sure the judges like them. So they facilitate the quick processing of cases. And I think well-intentioned lawyers can go into these systems and start to be shaped into lawyers they never would have recognized in law school, which is really what the book is all about, is about how the culture of our criminal legal system shapes all of us, even the best intentioned of us, into being folks who learn to process human beings as though they're widgets in a factory.
And that is such a great description because, again, all too often I saw precisely that taking place. Jonathan, there's a lot more we have to talk about here because I want to get into what your organization is proposing to better repair this situation and this system so that all American defendants get what that court case, what the Gideon case promised, which was a good and fair defense. We're going to talk about that when we continue with Jonathan Rapping, author of the new book, Gideon's Promise, A Public Defender Movement to Transform Criminal Justice, when we continue with the Rick Unger Show right after this.
Call Rick now, 833-711-7425. That's 833-711-RICK.
The air we breathe, the water we drink, the soil that grows food for our families. These basic elements are essential to healthy, happy lives. America's corn growers think so too. Across the country, they're pitching in every day and doing the work to produce food and fuel that is healthy in a sustainable way. Go to ncga.com to learn more about how corn farmers grow a more sustainable future for us all. That's ncga.com.
At the Honda Summer Sales Event, one summer adventure leads to another. Start with a great offer on a new Honda and be on your way to remote beach weekends, deep forest discoveries, and sunsets next to a campfire that you built yourself. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get 1.9% APR on the 2021 Honda CR-V, Ridgeline, or the all-new 2022 Civic.
Shop the Honda Summer Sales Event today. See your local Honda dealer.
Exclude Civic Type R. See dealer for financing details.
Childhood is wanting a variety of different baked sweets and someone telling you no. Adulthood is wanting a variety of different baked sweets and being able to go right to Mickey D's to get every single one you want. Whenever you want.
Get the new glazed pull-apart donut and a 99-cent any-sized iced coffee with pumpkin spice flavor. Sweet. Prices and participation may vary. Limited time only. Iced coffee promo available until 11 a.m. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This is Rick Unger, and I want to thank you for listening to the Rick Unger Show Daily Podcast. Now, to listen to the full show ad-free, go to rickungershow.com and click on Premium Podcast at the top of the page.
Can't find a rational conversation on Twitter? Try Rational Radio, The Rick Unger Show.
Welcome back to the Rick Unger Show on this Wednesday edition. If you are just joining us, we have been hopefully exposing to you one of the real problems in our criminal justice system, and that is the kind of legal representation defendants who cannot afford to hire their own attorneys. They are entitled to a court-appointed attorney, but how good is that representation? Well, the fact of the matter is it really hasn't been as good as it should be. We are talking in this regard to Jonathan Rapping. Jonathan is the founder and president of Gideon's Promise, an organization dedicated to changing the culture and practice of public defenders in our country. He has a new book out. I highly recommend it to you if this is a topic of interest to you. It's called Gideon's Promise, A Public Defender Movement to Transform Criminal Justice. Jonathan, first, thanks for staying with us for some additional time. We focused on the nature of the problem in the last segment. What I really want to take a look at here is what the heck can be done about it. And I'll leave it to you to give us some of the top line points of how you go about reshaping this the system in this regard so that everybody who is accused of a criminal offense in America can have decent, competent representation.
Yeah, well, Rick, I think I would point to the thesis of the book, which is that really at its heart, our criminal justice challenge is a cultural challenge. And as we talked about before the break, well-intentioned people come into the system wanting to do good work, and they are so overwhelmed, so under-resourced, so beaten down that one of two things happens. They either quit because they can't take it anymore. It takes an emotional toll on you, it takes a physical toll on you, or worse, they become resigned to the status quo and they begin to process. And that's true with public defenders. It's true with prosecutors. It's true with judges. But I think what my wife and I, because my wife is a co-founder of Gideon's Promise, what we realized when we moved from D.C. to the South was that public defenders who came to this work for the right reasons were becoming part of the problem. And as they were no longer able to provide the resistance needed in the system, any hope of real reform was lost. And so what Gideon's Promise really sets out to do is not just train these lawyers to be really skilled advocates, but we give them strategies to resist the pressures to abandon their values. We build a community so they can collectively transform the culture that shapes their offices. And ultimately, we want to build leaders and build offices that will become the vehicle to cause other systems actors to rethink the work they're doing and what justice looks like. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying the problem is cultural. And if we only focus on policy fixes, we're never going to get where we need to go.
So I completely understand that. But I guess the question that raises for me, you can have the best trained, certainly well-intentioned lawyers anywhere, ready and able to provide great service to a criminal defendant. But you know what? If you are still being jammed with too many cases, there's only so much time in the day. So how much of this involves finding money or convincing communities, counties, wherever their system is based, to put more money towards a larger and better public defense system?
Yeah, that's critical. I mean, I think the two sort of buckets of reform that everyone talks about, everyone who understands public defense, are funding. We definitely need more money for public defenders. We have to reduce caseloads and make sure they have the resources that they need. And then structure. We need to make sure that public defenders have independence, so they're not relying on the judges they appear before for appointments. And those are two things that people talk about often. I think culture is a piece that is overlooked, and it's critical. So let me just try to share a quick story with you, recognizing we're on a time limit. But there is a video I share with our public defender leaders. It's a man who was a leader in Tennessee. He had a 5-county district, and he was at a budget hearing speaking for the public defenders of Tennessee. And he was asked, do you have enough resources? And he says, let me tell you something. I got a 5-county district. I have 5 offices. He said, I have 5 lawyers and 1 investigator. And he said, last year we closed 4,000 cases, right? That's 800 cases per lawyer. And he went on to say, so let me assure you, there's 1 district in Tennessee that has enough. We're blessed. He said, we're good at processing. We are very efficient. Our lawyers are time savers. Literally the adjectives he used with pride. And I share that with our chief defenders. And I say, I don't believe that man came out of law school 30 years ago saying, you know what I want to do with my life? I want to help process 800 people a year into cages. I think I'll be a public defender. That man was slowly and subtly shaped by a system that lost sight of justice. And while we need money and we need independence, if you gave that lawyer all the funding he needed and all the independence he needed, he still wouldn't know what a good public defender looked like because the culture shaped him into someone who accepted the status quo. So yes, we need money. Absolutely, Rick. But if we're not also dealing with the cultural challenge, the money will be squandered because we've lost sight of what justice looks like.
You also just have to wonder how many criminal convictions in that county were overturned as a result of poor representation. Let me get anybody up to speed who may just be joining us. We're speaking with Jonathan Rapping, founder and president of Gideon's Promise. This is an organization which is seeking to change the culture and practice of public defense in America. And when I say public defense, I'm talking about providing defense to those defendants who cannot afford to pay for it themselves. Jonathan, I will share one experience that I had back in my days in the court system. I used to find that I was wishing, particularly when it came to outside attorneys who were receiving court appointments, I always thought there should be a test because so many of them didn't really know criminal law. law, but it was an opportunity for them to make some money, so they would take these cases, weren't prepared. Less of a concern with public defenders' offices, because as a result of experience, most of those people would come to at least be moderately competent. Why does the court system not force these attorneys who want to make this money into proving that they're competent criminal defense attorneys?
Yeah, well, and Rick, I think you're right. With the better public defender offices, training is provided, but there are still many public defender offices where a new lawyer can walk in and get 300 cases, and learn it's trial by fire, and the only thing you really are learning are bad habits. And the question, why do systems put up with it, is because, quite frankly, good public defenders make things harder to process. Good public defenders slow the conveyor belt down, force us to actually make sure rights are protected. And in a system that is dedicated to processing huge volumes of cases as quickly as possible, I think whether consciously or subconsciously, people who run the systems prefer lawyers who will lay down and not fight.
It makes it go quicker. Jonathan, I gotta leave it there because we ran out of time, and I do want to take a moment. If people are interested in your work, how do they get in touch?
Well, our website, gideonspromise.org. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And please do follow us. Sign up for our newsletter and keep thinking about public defenders. We appreciate that.
And if you want to learn more on this, and if you claim to be somebody interested in criminal justice, I don't know how you can avoid learning more about this. Do check out Jonathan Rapping's new book, Gideon's Promise, A Public Defender Movement to Transform Criminal Justice. Jonathan, great organization, great work, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
I appreciate you, Rick. Thank you.
You got it. We will continue with the Rick Unger Show right after this.
Want a rational conversation? Call 833-711-7425. 833-711-RICK.
Thanks for listening to the Rick Unger Show Daily Podcast. You can hear the rest of the show ad-free by going to rickungershow.com and clicking on Premium Podcast at the top of the page.
At the Honda Summer Sales Event, one summer adventure leads to another. Start with a new Honda and be on your way to desert treks, lakeside getaways, and mountain paths so remote you need an actual map. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get 1.9% APR on the 2021 Honda Accord and 0% APR on the 2021 HR-V or Pilot.
Shop the Honda Summer Sales Event today. See your local Honda dealer.
See dealer for financing details.
At the Honda Summer Sales Event, one summer adventure leads to another. Start with a new Honda and be on your way to desert treks, lakeside getaways, and mountain paths so remote you need an actual map. For a limited time, well-qualified buyers can get 1.9% APR on the 2021 Honda Accord and 0% APR on the 2021 HR-V or Pilot.
Shop the Honda Summer Sales Event today. See your local Honda dealer.
See dealer for financing details.